Yo, what's going on everyone? Frigadude99 here, and today I bring you my final solo legendary build for the Warlock. This is a classic solar Warlock build that I've been running for a while, and it's been adapted to use the new mod and loadout system. It works wonderfully, and I was able to wipe the floor with pretty much every mission with this build. You'll have no trouble at all getting it up and running, and it pretty much doesn't require any artifact perks to start off. With that being said, let's get right into it. Now, starting off with the subclass, we're going to be going for our Super Well of Radiance. It is fantastic to have as the bonus to weapon damage, as well as the fact that it can save you in some really close call situations. Just means I love using it, plus it has the lower base cooldown. Daybreak isn't a bad choice, but most of the time you can clear through enemies a lot quicker than Daybreak will clear through them. For the class ability, we're using Phoenix Dive. Now, I may get some thoughts on this, but Phoenix Dive I find is so much better as the fact that it's super quick. All you have to do is jump and hit your class ability and you'll drop down to the ground, providing yourself with healing, as well as because of one of the aspects we're using, it's going to scorch targets around us and provide us restoration. This is really good to have, and if you like using the rifts you can, but Phoenix Dive is my way to go. For the melee, we're using Celestial Fire for the amount of range it has. It can be really tough getting close with Incinerator Snap, so I find Celestial Fire is a lot better. We're using Fusion Grenade as this is a Starfire Protocol build, so Fusion Grenade is of course the grenade we're choosing. Starting off with the aspects, we're using Touch of Flame, which will increase our Fusion Grenade to explode twice. This has a lot of bonus damage that is added onto our grenade, and pretty much makes it so we can clear through Tormentors and heavy bosses without much trouble at all, as our grenade comes back super quickly with this build. For our second aspect, we're using Heat Rises, which will make it so we can consume our grenade, and when we consume it, it'll provide a burst of healing for us, as well as it'll provide us bonus melee energy whenever we get final blows. This is really nice to have, as well as it improves the functionality of Phoenix Dive. For the fragments, we're using Ember of Torches, so our Celestial Fire, whenever it hits, it'll make us radiant and give us a bonus to weapon damage. We're using Ember of Resolve, so our Solar Grenade final blows cure us, which will provide a burst of healing. We are always throwing grenades, so we're always getting healed. Ember of Singeing, we want our class ability to come back as quickly as possible, and we're always scorching targets, which means Phoenix Dive is pretty much always up. And then Ember of Searing, because defeating scorched targets grants melee energy, but it also creates a Fire Sprite. Fire Sprites, when picked up, they grant grenade energy, which is wonderful to have, as there is some points where we won't have our grenade back right away. Now moving on to the weapons, with my other builds this is kind of similar. We are rocking Wither Horde as it is, again, fantastic to have. The amount of steady damage it applies, as well as the add clear potential it has. It's really a god tier weapon to bring through the legendary campaign, but in some cases you can also use Osteostriga. It melts through a lot of encounters, and depending on which mission you're actually in, Osteostriga, it just destroys a lot of content, but make sure you switch around your mods to actually work with it. For our primary weapon, we're using Callus Mini Tool as our incandescent applier. You want to make sure that you're using a weapon with incandescent so you can actually apply scorch stacks and create fire sprites. Incandescent weapons are easy to come by nowadays, so you shouldn't have too much trouble getting your hands on one. For the heavy weapon, I've been using Bump of the Night with Demolitionist Chill Clip, as this is a grenade spam build, which means Demolitionist heavy weapons shine a lot brighter here. You can also use linear fusions or grenade launchers, it's really up to you. In a lot of cases, I used Cry Mutiny to apply massive amounts of explosions and scorch. Now that's going to do it for the weapons. Moving on to the artifact and the perks. The only perks you will really require will be the authorized mod solar, so you can apply more solar mods to yourself, as well as authorized mods grenades, which reduces grenade moss cost down to pretty much 1. This helps us use a lot more of the mods available to us and just makes the build function a lot better. Once you do get high enough, I do recommend grabbing Solar Surge, as collecting a Fire Sprite gives us an armor charge. This just ensures that we can spam grenades more easily and more efficiently. Now that's going to do it for the artifact perks. Moving on to the armor and mods, and starting with the helmet. We are going to be using Ashes to Assets to gain a bonus super energy on grenade kills. It's a grenade spam build, so we're always getting our super energy up. We're also using Heavy Ammo Finder, as having your heavy ammo is extremely important, especially when trying to solo the legendary campaign. And we're using either Kinetic Siphon or Solar Siphon depending on what weapon you're using. If you're using Kinetic Siphon, I highly recommend using Osteostriga, but if you're using Callus Mini Tool, then you'll want to use Solar Siphon. Just change depending on what you're doing. And then for the stats, we're really focusing resilience and discipline and recovery. Depending on how your armor rolls, you can usually get pretty high in recovery and discipline, but having that 100 resilience is really nice for that 30% damage reduction it gives. As well as recovery helps out a lot, as our class ability is based off recovery, and this is a grenade spam build, so the higher our discipline is, the better we're doing overall. For the gauntlets, we are using firepower, so our grenade final blows spawn an orb of power. This is really nice to have, as we are constantly getting grenade final blows, as well as it'll fuel into grenade kickstart, so whenever we use our grenades, we are getting grenade energy refunded, as well as whenever we throw a grenade, it will consume the amount of armor charges we have, and will refund additional grenade energy back to us. This ensures that with Starfire Protocol, we pretty much have a constant uptime on our grenades, as we're constantly getting orbs of power, getting armor charges, and expending them for more grenade energy to create more orbs of power. It's a really easy and fun loop to go into. For the exotic, we're using Starfire Protocol. Now, Starfire Protocol gives a bonus to fusion grenades by giving them an additional charge, as well as whenever you get a grenade kill, it'll refund your class ability back fully. This means whenever we throw a grenade and get a kill, our Phoenix Dive will be coming back. On some of our other mods, whenever we do a Phoenix Dive, we will be getting grenade energy back, which means we throw a grenade, we Phoenix Dive, we get grenade energy back from both the grenade exploding and us doing the Phoenix Dive. It results in a very satisfying loop for you constantly throwing grenades, getting healing, and being on the move. As well as for the mods, we're going to be using Harmonic Resistance, Arc Resistance, and Emergency Reinforcement. Reinforcement is very nice to have, as whenever we're getting our shield broken, we're getting some resist to make sure we don't die. And then for Arc Resistance and Harmonic Resistance, you'll want to change that depending on what mission you're going against, as some of them do have a lot more heavy elemental damage depending on the enemy you're facing. For the boots, we're going to be using stacks on stacks, so anytime we pick up an orb of power, we're going to be getting an additional stack of armor charge, and this will feed into not only our grenade kickstart and emergency reinforcement, but also our solar weapon surge, as we are using 2 of them. Solar Weapon Surge provides a beautiful bonus to our solar weapon damage, which means whenever we're using Callus Mini Tool, we're getting a nice bump to that damage, as well as if we're using a solar heavy. And finally, for the class item, we're going to be using Double Bomber with a Fonta Restoration. Fonta Restoration makes it so whenever we have an armor charge active, we are going to get a bonus to recovery. This ensures that even if your recovery is a little low or not at 100, it'll bump it up enough whenever you have an armor charge on, which is pretty much always. And then Double Bomber ensures that whenever we're using our Phoenix Dive, we're getting grenade energy back, which feeds into the loop of throw grenade, Phoenix Dive, get grenade back, throw grenade, Phoenix Dive, and get a constant healing plus melee plus grenade plus weapon damage. It's just amazing. Now, the solo legendary campaign was definitely a challenge getting through, but the builds I've made and constructed and presented here have all worked wonderfully getting through them. Warlocks are different in how they play, but this is a classic build updated to use the new mod system and even work in endgame content as you complete the campaign. There's a lot of stuff to do now that Lightfall is out, and I'm sure you'll add this into your loadouts right away once you build it. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. This has been FreakyDude99. This is it for all of my legendary solo builds. Moving on, we're going to be getting into the endgame builds, into weapon reviews, into everything else, because now that you'll all be through the solo legendary campaign, we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty and to the real details of how to combat some of the hardest endgame content in the game. So stay tuned for that, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button, and of course we'll see you in the next video. Peace out everyone.